Like the dinosaurs, the Democratic Party's facing new signs that them could be headed for extinction, politically speaking. The New York Times says the blue wall might be cooked. Quote, how the Electoral College could tilt further from Democrats. If population projections hold, in 2032, a Democratic presidential candidate who wins Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nevada loses the presidency. And the Obama squad says there's never been a worse time to be a Democrat.
I do not think the people at the helm of the party have been willing to contend with the depth of the crisis the party is in. I mean, it is at its worst point than at almost any point in our history. And I would probably even include after the 1984 election when we lost 49 states.
Okay, Stegosaurus, Velociraptor, Dana, what will the Democrats look like in 2032?
Well, I agree that in a way it feels like they're just done, that they're never coming back. But usually parties do bounce back eventually. As I said, maybe since 1984 it hasn't been this bad. Like the cicadas, they come back every 17 years. That is a possibility. This is the Double Down Conference. They're trying to figure out a way to, how can we most not learn our lesson from the last election? And in this scenario that you have them talking about the Hamas-Israel war, and I know that that is a serious bone of contention with a lot of people there, and it's severe and it's striking. But they also talked about dark money in politics and land acknowledgments instead of talking about economics or policing or education. It's not that there aren't issues that they could grab onto. They just choose not to. Maybe they shouldn't have had this meeting in public.
Yeah.
Right? They maybe should have had this one behind closed doors and try to figure out and hash it out and really have it out with each other. I like seeing it in person, but just from a comm standpoint, I might have taken it behind closed doors.
Tyrus, I know you wanted to start the segment with a land acknowledgement. If you
no,
take it away.
No,
no. Okay.
No, land gets conquered all the time. That's how human beings work.
Okay.
And I think it's cicada, but I don't want to be that guy.
Cicada?
Yeah.
Cicada.
Well, my neighborhood is cicada. I think the biggest problem that the Democratic Party has, and it's not again, I said it yesterday. This man right here is a Democrat. These ain't Democrats. The Socialist Party has a problem. They're still campaigning against a guy that they'll never compete against again. President Trump won. Accept it. It's over. He's not running in 20, no matter how much you want to make, because I guarantee you their entire campaign slogan is much like the dinosaurs who never thought to, when they looked up and saw the asteroid coming, like, hey, maybe we should walk over here. The smaller dinosaurs, the conservative ones, turned into birds and are still with us here today. But those Democrats wanted to stay there and be like, oh, it's no big. We can beat that big, beautiful asteroid that is President Trump. You've missed your window. You're not going to get him. So in your meeting, you come together and say, we'd like to acknowledge the fact that for the last decade and a half, we've battled with Trump. White flag, we lost, regroup, everyone who was a part of it. Thanks for playing. Send your way. It's a new team. You got to make cuts. Yeah. We're going to start things over from scratch.
I just can't believe
that's the only way you do it. Otherwise, you go the way of the dodo.
I didn't know the smart dinosaurs transitioned into birds.
Yes.
That's the first time I'm hearing about it.
You just went to the museum with Jesse Jr.
But you know that chickens
yeah,
are
I
just
saw
dinosaurs.
the skeletons. I didn't read
if you
the
play
little
around with it
insignias.
in a scientific lab, if you play around with a chicken's embryo, you can reproduce a raptor-like individual.
Okay, another person that knows more about science than I do. Katie, explain to me is it the shift in population? Is it everybody's moving to Florida and Texas?
Yeah. Well, that helps too, and it does not help Democrats with their redistricting or with the Electoral College in future elections. But the dinosaurs didn't do this to themselves. You know, this was kind of out of their control, the asteroid taking them out. Democrats are doing this to themselves. They can't get out of their own way. At this DNC meeting, they're still defending terrorism. They're doubling down on saying criminals are not a problem and that Americans should basically just live with higher crime rates, that it's some kind of distraction by the Republicans, not real life. They still are arguing. You had the Attorney General of Minnesota saying this today, that sex offenders should still be in women's bathrooms and girls' restrooms, saying they want to sue the Trump administration over transgender bathroom initiatives. Still, to this day, they're going to continue doing that. And that America is this colonialist, white supremacist nation that needs to be taken down or shamed till the end of time, which you saw in that ridiculous land acknowledgement. So they can't get out of their own way. As the country is going to the right, the Democratic Party, where the energy is shifting to the left. And I actually think that the Mamdanis and the AOCs are in control, and they're going to gain even more power because, to at least Mamdani's credit, I think all of his solutions are ludicrous and that communism is not a solution to housing or other issues in a city. But he's actually talking about housing prices, healthcare, cost of groceries, where at the DNC, it's hearing a lot of the same stuff that is kind of out in la la land for the average American, and they're not interested.
Harold, you guys will bounce back, right?
Look, you never bet against the future. And the problem Democrats have is we're clinging to the past. The old ideas, the old ways, it sounds and feels like we're running a 1990s campaign. And that doesn't mean I didn't like President Clinton, who won in those times. But that technology is not going to win in 2025, 26, 28. In 84 and 88, the young fellow was on, one of the Obama guys was on, talking about how bad 84 was. 88 was bad too. 92, remember, no Democrat wanted to run in 92 because H.W. Bush was so strong he had ejected Saddam Hussein from Kuwait, and Norman Schwarzkopf was the talk of the country. Cuomo didn't run, Mario Cuomo didn't run, Bill Bradley didn't run, Al Gore didn't run. And all of a sudden, this little country governor from Arkansas said, you know, it's the economy, stupid. That's what I'm going to run on. A guy named Bill Clinton resurrected the party and basically introduced a new politics for Democrats. In 2000, I would argue W. Bush was also a mini transformational figure. His line was, we are compassionate conservatives. And he changed and upended the way people thought about conservative politics. And Obama comes along in 08, then the granddaddy of them all, 2016, Donald Trump, who disavowed everything Republicans said he should have done by talking about immigration in a way he shouldn't have talked about, at least some said. He talked about tariffs and talked about ways to reinvigorate the economy in different ways. You think about what he's doing today. Everybody around this table was critical of Obama and Biden when they did the CHIPS Act and when Obama invested money in the car companies and the banks, saying that was state-directed capitalism. It was picking winners and losers. President Trump decided to invest in Intel. President Trump's own Commerce Secretary said this morning they're looking at investing in Boeing as well as defense companies, not investing, but taking shares. This is unprecedented. So all I say to Democrats is the door is opening.
Yep.
But if you're going to have land acknowledgments, if you're going to sit around and talk about how we're suing the president, and if you don't get off this issue of little boys playing in little girls' sports and going in their bathrooms, we're going to be in the minority a long, long time. And I'm going to have to listen to those kind of Democratic meetings for far longer than I want to.
Oh, and we love listening to those meetings. Aren't those delicious? Up next, President Trump says he can fix Cracker Barrel after their brand went up in flames. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.